the regular meeting of the Town Council of the Town of Clarkdale for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Roll call, Vice Mayor Hunsetter. Here. Councilmember Babbitt Pierce.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill. Here. Councilmember Jones.
Present.
And please note that Mayor Prudhomme Bauer is here. We have a quorum. Item 3 is public comment. The council invites the public to provide comments at this time. Members of the town council may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. And therefore, we can't take, we're limited in taking action to direct staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later time. If you're interested in making a comment, just raise your hand. I'll identify you to come up and speak for 5 minutes. If you're online, just please make a note in the chat to our town clerk, and she will invite you in to speak. Is there anybody who is interested in making public comment at this time? Anybody online, Charity? Okay. Okay, seeing nobody come forward to make public comment, let's move on to item number 4, which is reports. In the packet online and for all of us are the brief summary of current events of the council, mayor's report, vice mayor's report, and all of our council member reports. Item B is organizational reports. Again, these have been submitted electronically, but I will ask where any note on any of these as I call them out. So the first one is Verde Valley Transportation Planning Organization.
We didn't have a meeting in October and we meet tomorrow.
Okay. NACOG, Northern Arizona Council of Governments.
All meeting notes were submitted electronically.
Okay. Yes, they were. They were long minutes, but good, always good. Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, NAMWA.
We did have a meeting on Friday, and what was mostly discussed was the Water Utility Leadership Forum, which is coming up next May. It's not free this year, but it's really cheap and you can get all your certifications. So
fabulous. Wonderful. Okay. Transportation Policy Advisory Council, TPAC.
Our October meeting was canceled because of the Rural Transportation Conference that was held in Prescott. It was an excellent conference. A lot of compliments to Clarkdale on our transportation projects. And I believe our November meeting has also been canceled due to a lack of agenda items. So hopefully I will have more for you in December.
Great, thank you. Verde Front Leadership Council is meeting on Thursday. I'm not going to be in attendance, but I know Town Manager Guthrie will be there, and I'll write a note on a couple of items. So when that meeting is over with, the notes I'll share with everybody. Okay. Sustaining Flows Committee.
We did have a meeting, and it was a productive meeting to talk about regional solutions to things that can be implemented to help sustain the flow of the Verde River. And so it was not only, it was input from people in the county, people in Camp Verde, Clarkdale, and around the region. So hopefully out of that, we'll get several priority items in which we can collaborate on.
Okay, great. Yavapai Communities for Young Children.
We meet next in January.
Okay. Cottonwood Airport Noise Working Group.
I hope we will be reconvening soon.
Okay. And this is a new one on here. It's vulnerable road users, SHSP emphasis area team. That's a long one.
Yes. So this is something that came out of the Rural Transportation Conference. We have our first meeting in 2 weeks. And so as I learn more about what it is we're doing, I will share that with you.
Okay. Maybe they'll come up with a shorter name.
It's ADOT, probably not.
Okay. Okay. That's all of our organizational reports. Let's move on to item 5, which is our first item under this, or our item under this is our broadband update. And I invite Corey Christians with Yavapai County to give a presentation on where we are with broadband and BEAD funding.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
Members of the council. Appreciate you having me here to talk a little bit about broadband and where we're at in Yavapai County. So this is a long and complex issue going back at least a couple of years. So I'm going to do my best to summarize some of this. But if you have any questions at any time, just feel free to interrupt me and I will answer them as best I can. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the broadband projects that have happened so far in Yavapai County. 2017, we had an E-rate build out that connected all schools and libraries throughout the county with high-speed internet. This is fiber connections. This was done via Sparklight, and it was over 100 schools and libraries that were all connected. So in essence, that built out our middle mile network, which is in essence the network that can make it so all the municipalities and other neighborhoods can connect together with a faster internet connection. In 2022, Yavapai County leveraged some of their ARPA funds to start a broadband build out. That has been happening now for a couple of years and will complete in 2025. And now we're reaching into 2025 where we have broadband equity and access deployment funds, which will estimated to be completed by the state of Arizona in 2030. So that's the process we're going through right now. So the goal with all these programs together is by 2030 to have all residents of Yavapai County have access to high-speed internet. Next slide, please. So a little overview about our ARPA program is that the Board of Supervisors approved moving forward with allocating $20 million in ARPA funds for broadband in 2021. Cox Communications won one of those bids for the Black Canyon City and Congress area. The Congress build out is now complete. Black Canyon City is very close to complete. So Congress right now has 2.5 gig access. They have the fastest internet in the county in Congress. So it's pretty impressive. So WECOM also successfully bid on a project that's valued at $8 million in ARPA funds. There's going to be several communities that are served by that. And then Sparklight was also approved by a project for the Board of Supervisors on December 6, 2023, which is a $5 million ARPA allocation. So here it's a kind of small to see, but this is all the projects that we're working on for ARPA right now. As I mentioned, Cox is in Black Canyon City and Congress. Sparklight is building out in the Verde Village. We're hoping to have a groundbreaking on that very soon, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, if not early December. So it'll be exciting to see some progress on that particular project. WECOM is won projects in Cordes Junction, Spring Valley, Paulden, Rimrock in the Beaver Creek area, and Whitehorse Ranch. So as you can see, there are over 10,000 areas that are what they call BSLs, broadband serviceable locations, which will now have access to high-speed internet once all of these projects are completed. And the good part is that the ARPA funds that the county put in was only about a third of the project cost. The internet service providers brought all the rest of that, their own money, to build those projects out. Next slide. So the next thing we're looking at is BEAD funds. So this is a part of the infrastructure plan that Congress passed a couple of years ago, and $993 million were provided to the state of Arizona to build out high-speed internet. This is fiber to the home, so real high-speed internet throughout the entire state. Of that, there's also an additional $16 million in digital equity funds, because that's once you get everybody on the internet, they need to know what to do with that. You can't just give somebody a car to drive unless they have lessons on how to drive, they have a license, all these different things. So this is to help people understand the dangers of the internet, how it's beneficial, how they can get an email account, what kind of devices they need to access, what plans they should look at. There are all these programs in place to help people understand what broadband access is after they have it. It's important to know too that unlike ARPA, Yavapai County nor any municipality, with some exceptions, will be directly handling any of this money. It's all being done through the state of Arizona, and internet service providers will apply directly for that funding from the state of Arizona. So there's a few areas like Pima County is looking at being their own internet service provider. So they may apply for some funds to help with that. We're not interested in doing that in Yavapai County. We'll let the experts do their job while we do ours. So the way that we can work together on it, though, is to draft a letter of support saying that we support certain internet service providers to build out within our areas. So to that end, we've developed the Yavapai County Broadband Initiative, which is a coalition of many entities, most municipalities, some citizens, and nonprofit groups all working together to make sure that we're aligned in how broadband is working in this county. As a matter of fact, our effort in this county is far and away more aligned than any other county in this state. We're doing a very good job of working together and making sure we're all moving in the same direction. As you can see, Mr. Green and Ms. Guthrie are both on that, helping in the initiative for Clarkdale, along with many, many others, including Coconino County. We wanted to make sure our neighbor to the north was included as well. Next slide, please. So our goals for the YCBI are to keep each other updated on our various broadband initiatives, provide information regarding the BEAD process, and coordinate BEAD processes going forward, which is exactly what we've been doing. Next. So this is also pretty interesting. When we had a meeting a few weeks ago with the state, where everybody in the state went to that meeting that was interested in this process, they actually used us as the example on how it all looks and will work going forward. But throughout Arizona, there are currently 2.7 million serviceable locations. And of those, 111,000 are underserved, meaning they have less than 100 meg access, or unserved, meaning they have less than 20 meg access. So these are extremely slow speeds. And there's about 250,000 altogether throughout the entire state that do not have adequate internet access. In Yavapai County, we have 21,000 that are underserved and 14,000 that are unserved, making that about 40,000 for us. Well, thereabouts. Next slide, please. So that gives us 4.4% of the serviceable locations in Arizona, about 19% of all unserved locations in Arizona, and 19% of all underserved, and 10% of all unserved locations in Arizona. So with $993 million that the state of Arizona has, that puts us in a good position to get a nice chunk of that money to build out in this county. Next. So right now, this is another small slide, but we are just past that area where it says we are here. So part of in this BEAD process, since the state is handling all of it, they're like, okay, we would need to break this down into project areas. We want to hear what the counties and the municipalities and other folks think of these project areas. That right there was called the market sounding for those areas and the way they broke it all out. And we've just completed that last week. And now we're moving into ISPs submitting all of their pre-registration information for the BEAD process. And as you can see there, in July 2025, after that is when they'll be starting to look for final proposals. Next. Yavapai County is number 2 for counties in the state with the most areas that require broadband connections. So those unserved and underserved locations I mentioned before, only Cochise County in this state has more than we do. So again, that puts us in a pretty good position to be able to get some of that good chunk of that funding. Next. Yes.
Do you have any idea how they measure that and they come up with those numbers?
Yes. So the FCC back in November of last year had a broadband map of where all the internet service providers submitted their data and said, this is the speeds we offer in all the locations throughout the country. The state then took a look at those information, and they had GIS departments throughout the counties, municipalities, states update all that information to make sure that all the locations were included. Actually, we estimate that Arizona got an additional $200 million because of all that work that GIS departments did updating the map. And then once that happened, they gave it to the counties and said, okay, these are what these people are saying your speeds are. Can you please verify that these are what the speeds are? So we went through this challenge process for 3 months where we actually had a number where people would call us up and go, that's not really my speed. And then we'd have a process to go through that we could challenge that. I also submitted several challenges on behalf of municipalities and counties. Altogether, that probably opened up another 4,000 or 5,000 locations that are BEAD eligible in the county. So that's where it came from through the ISP and then vetted after that.
And just to
Catherine?
add on to what he's saying, if you recall in our e-newsletter for probably an entire month, we put a blurb in there encouraging residents to call and get direction on how to test if their speeds were matching what was in there. And the other thing I was hoping maybe you could just touch on RDOF, the RDOF
Yes.
issue a wee bit if you didn't already have it planned.
Yeah, no problem. So there's if I remember right, it's the Regional Digital Opportunity Fund, which is another source of federal funding that's called RDOF. It's been around for many years. And it was unlike BEAD, which has actually been a real partnership with the states and the local governments. RDOF funding was just given to ISPs and none of us were even told about it. States weren't told, local governments weren't told, nobody had any idea. So in this county, we have 2 companies. One is called Resound, one is called GeoLinks that have been awarded RDOF areas. So it's fixed wireless and it's meant to be for homes that are sparsely in areas that are sparsely populated. Homes are far away from each other, so they can just put up a tower and have a 20-mile range where these 10, 20, 30 homes might all get access to it. So they tended to stay away from populated areas for that. It's mostly sparsely populated areas. But the problem is the RDOF fund, the people who are awarded that, in some cases had one project area they really wanted to build in. They're concentrating on that. And then they had no intention of building out in the rest of the areas. And they figured once the money was spent, what are they going to do, right? And then when they're come to task about it, say, oh, inflation, everything costs more and this and that. So it's been a huge conflict between the local governing authorities, the state, and the FCC over these RDOF funds, because if an area is being funded through RDOF, none of those locations are BEAD eligible. Same with any other federal funding. So there's EACAM, there's other projects as well, but if that specific area is earmarked for other federal funds, we cannot spend BEAD money on those locations. So we've been working with NACO, we've been working with the state. We've sent letters to the governor's office. The governor has been working with us, but the word on the street is it's not going to matter. The legislation's written the way the legislation's written, and the FCC has no interest in altering how that's been done.
And I believe we have a number of houses in Clarkdale that were picked up under RDOF.
And there's-
GeoLinks is the
Geo-
provider.
And it's really weird. And we found this just because of us trying to validate the map, the FCC map. When we would click on a home, we'd see not BEAD eligible. And we're like, why? And then we found out that it was RDOF. So we actually set up a meeting with GeoLinks and we met with them to try to ascertain their commitment to doing the work so that we could tell them, hey, they're saying they're not going to do it. But they did say, yes, we have the intention to do it, but it's really confusing because they're spread out all through the community. It'll be like one neighborhood, 3 or 4 homes,
Yep.
and then another neighborhood, 3 or 4 homes. It's very odd. And so it's a problem, but we're hoping that when they get funded for other homes, that means it's going to be right next door or across the street. So then it'll make it a good business decision for the ISPs to provide service to those homes. They just can't get grant funding for it.
Yeah, and hats off to Susan, because I tried for months to get a hold of anybody from GeoLinks and they wouldn't call me back. So I guess they're doing some kind of restructuring or something within the company, but they're supposed to have 20% build out for their entire project throughout the nation. done by the end of this year, and they're nowhere near that. Now, Resound, the other company, they're 40% built out already. None in Yavapai County yet.
No.
They just finished their Maricopa build out, or they're close to it, but 40% throughout the country. And I did have a chat with Resound, and they said if GeoLinks defaults, they're very interested in picking up those contracts.
That's
and
nice to
fulfilling.
hear. Thank you.
So hopefully that'll happen. But yeah, RDOF has not been our friend throughout this process. And to that end, also, we put out a questionnaire to internet service providers that might be building out into this area or interested. And we did ask if they'd be willing to build out into RDOF funded areas using their own funds if those vendors don't utilize those RDOF funds to build out. And 3 of them said they would be interested in doing that. Next slide, please. So the BEAD project areas, this is where things got a little weird, because initially we were told by the state that it would just be each county would be a project area. And then what they did is they broke out the counties into multiple project areas, and that the yellow and gray and red and blue and light blue, we were broken up into 5 project areas. And they said that they had a formula that they used to figure this out. In our analysis of it, it looks like that yellow area up there with Ash Fork and Seligman didn't have any sort of tether to any municipality. The largest areas are Paulden, which is going to be built out by WECOM, and Seligman and Ash Fork, which are part of the EACAM. So they're being built out by Tabletop. So if you take away those 3 communities, you're kind of left with some of Williamson Valley and Baghdad, and that's about it. And I think Baghdad's making their own arrangements to have internet build out. The mine is. So we lodged some complaints officially about the project areas during the market sounding. Clarkdale, for instance, was grouped in with the Quad City area, but Cottonwood was grouped in with Sedona. The Village of Oak Creek was split in half. It was a little strange the way they did it. So we told them we wanted all of Yavapai County to be one group, because we already had commitments from 3 internet service providers to build out to the entire county. So the concern is if we go with these project areas as they're laid out here, that what could end up happening is they'll say, well, we'll do the Quad City area, we'll do Sedona, and that's it. And then everybody else will just, because it's super expensive to build out. Now the state says all proposals together have to build out to everybody in the state, or they're not going to be accepted. So if there are gaps but we'll see what happens. What happens if they don't get proposals to everywhere? So I'd rather just have all of Yavapai County be one project area. And we're trying to get the Coconino side of Sedona also
Okay.
grouped into that to make sure that they can be built out too as well.
And when will you hear that we're one project area instead of 5?
That's a good.
Because I know you
question.
submitted a letter.
Yeah, and of course, Madam Mayor and Susan were both in on that meeting I had with the broadband, the state broadband office, which was helpful. But I don't know when we're going to receive a response, but I do know they did ask us to put in a second proposal, just in case they didn't want to group us all together. So I basically switched it into 2 project areas, one that includes the Quad City and one that includes all of Verde Valley, figuring that would be a good way that folks would want to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the way it's broken out into right now. You can see Northwest Yavapai County only has 1,337 locations, and it's also the largest project area, so it's huge. So there's big concern that they won't actually want to build out there. Same with the Southwest Yavapai County. The Southeast, Cottonwood, Sedona area, Quad City area are probably more likely, but keep in mind the Quad City is already mostly built out already. So most of it isn't eligible for BEAD funding because they already have high-speed internet. So really the best location here is the Sedona area, where they do not have high-speed internet in the Village of Oak Creek. So that's why we weren't particularly pleased with these project areas. Next. So as you can see here with Clarkdale, all of those orange areas or brownish orange areas are not bead eligible. Only the turquoise areas are bead eligible. So on the left, that is your town boundaries. On the right, that's the bead service or the broadband serviceable locations. And there are far more that they consider served than are considered unserved, if that makes sense. Next slide. And that is my update, unless you have any questions for us or for me. My contact information is there on the left. Also, Christy King is our digital navigator. So if you call 928-777-7575, she will answer any internet related question for you. And she's already received lots of calls, so feel free to send that information out to anybody.
Is there any questions for Corey on this? If you saw by the map, you basically see that Clarkdale has spotty areas that are unserved or underserved.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that we're looking at. So like the foothills area, probably the Tuzigoot Mesa area. So, and then little spots in between. So we hope that this all works out. I was a good meeting with the state broadband director. He's very good. He's very committed to broadband for all in the state that we all get served. So, and this is a bunch of money.
Yeah.
This is
it's
close
$1 billion.
to, this is $1 billion. Might as well just say that, round up.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money. And since we're number 2, it looks like we're in a good position to receive it, and that we have 3 internet providers that are interested in our area. So,
Well, and another interesting part of that is Sparklight is not one of those
Yeah,
internet service providers that's interested.
yeah.
So what that does for this area is all those homes, one of the other areas is going to come in and build out, which then now makes them a competitor to Sparklight.
Yeah, so
And-
we'll actually have internet service provider competition. Ooh,
Yep.
which is not bad at all. That's
only
good.
not.
That's a good thing. So, okay, any other questions or comments to Corey? Seeing none, Corey, we really thank you very much for this presentation and look forward to continuing to get updates and be a part of this process.
My pleasure. Just let me know when you want an update and I'll be here.
Okay, thank you so
Thank you.
much, Corey.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, let's move on to item 6, which is recognition of appreciation. We just had the completion of the Citizen Police Academy, and I'd like to have Officer Sean Guth come forward and introduce the graduates who are here of the inaugural Citizen Police Academy. Come on up, Sean, just state your name.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Sean Guth. Thank you guys for having me here tonight and giving me the opportunity to recognize the citizens that attended our academy. I don't think all of them are here tonight, so I'm going to just read off all the attendees' names. And those of you who are here tonight, just come up when you hear your name. We have Gail Doyle, Nick Hunsetter, Jim Collinsworth, Mary Lisa Hostetler, Laura Schambeck, Robert Henson Jr., Sierra Hutchinson, Grace Robertson, Henry Prudhomme, Christopher Mink, Cindy Watson, John Mulquin. How are you guys doing? So these are the ones that have showed up tonight, and it's an honor to recognize each of the citizens who attended our 7-week academy. I would like to thank them for taking the time out of their busy lives to learn more about our department and what we do every day. Their commitment to understanding the challenges we do and the challenges we face helps build a stronger, more safe community. This partnership is invaluable to us, and we're very grateful.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to the graduates. If if any one of you want to come, yeah, we'll do a picture up here, but if any one of you want to come to the microphone and just give a real brief of your experience of being in the academy, that would be great. Any one of you, or all of you, I don't care. Just state your name.
Happy to. My name is Mary Lisa. So this really was an amazing experience. I was here for the one in 2020 before COVID. But it really is, so my husband is retired law enforcement, so I get what they do, but it just gives a glimpse into appreciating what goes on behind the scenes. We got to see so many aspects of what they do. And it was just a great experience, and they all did a fantastic job. They all chipped in, and looking forward to the next one.
Great. Anybody else wish to comment?
I'll just echo what she said. It was a very valuable time spent, and it was great to see everything that goes on. And I'm looking forward to doing a ride along at some point and getting out there and actually seeing some field time.
Great, thank you. With that, thank all of you very, very, very much for participating in that. And we do look forward, what do we think next year will be the second one? And so we hope that you tell all of your neighbors to sign up for this. So we have even a bigger class for number 2 and the experience that you have had. And so if you would come up, all of you come up here, we'll do one group picture up here, okay? Come on up.
Okay, while they're walking, but really good input. Jane, good, not criticism, but good articulation of things we can do a little bit better next time.
Great, thank you. Come on up, come on up, Chief. Come on up, all of you. Yeah, why don't we stand? Oh, come on. We'll be on this side, they'll be on that side. Does that work? Chief, all of you, all the officers who are here. Congratulations again. It's mine. Okay, thank you so much again, Chief and Sergeant Guth for doing this program. Let's move on to item 7, which is consent agenda. We have 10 items on consent this evening. We have approval of minutes, and then we have several items that have to do with updating and amending our human resources manual, policy manual, and here it is, the changes that we have in here. Is there any comments or any of these we wish to take off for discussion? Yes.
I don't wish to pull anything. I just want to thank the human resources team and the entire town staff for taking the time to really look at our policies and to make sure that Clarkdale is a great place to work.
Yeah. Anything else? We know that this is going to be sort of ongoing. We have several parts of our policies to continue to update, but this continues to be a great start. We knew that they needed some work and we're just moving them, keep on getting more and more done on it. So thank you so much to staff for getting this done. Thank you, Angela. With that, if you don't want to pull any items off of consent, I'll take a motion to approve consent.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda items A through J as written.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been, a motion has been made by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve consent agenda items A through J as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much, Angela, for all of your work on this. Okay, let's move on to new business. And our first item tonight is oath of office of the elected mayor and council members. And I'd like to have Judge Catherine Kelly come up to administer the oath of office to Mayor-elect Robin Prudhomme Bauer, council member-elect Marnie Babbitt Pierce, and Debbie Hunsetter. And I think the three of us get to stand up and go forward. Why don't we come outside?
I, Marty Babbitt, Pierce.
I, Robin Prudhomme Bauer.
Do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
and the laws
and the laws
of the state of Arizona.
of the state of Arizona,
That I will bear
that I will
That I will
bear
true faith and allegiance
true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same,
and defend them
and defend them
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic,
And that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of council member
of the office of council member
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you guys. Here are your. Thank you. Thank you, Judge Kelly. Thank you.
Just a quick note on that. For the three of us, 4 years ago, we were still under COVID quarantine. So we all did our swearing in our homes 4 years ago. So for me, this is special to be here in the chambers to do it in front of all of you tonight. So thank you so much, Judge Kelly, for doing that. And to my two others who joined me up there, thank you for being on the council again. And thank you, Lisa and Laura, for putting up with us. So with that, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Hold on here a minute. Item 8B is a public hearing. The council is holding a public hearing to take public comment on application number 230147, the Highlands at Clarkdale, for approval of a preliminary plat comprised of 48 single-family residential lots of approximately 18.56 acres of an approximately 23.84 acre vacant parcel of land generally located at the northwest corner of State Route 89A, Cement Plant Road, and Clarkdale Parkway. The applicant is John Lash of Plateau Partners 2 LLC, and we have Assistant Town Manager Ruth Mayday who will speak to this topic. And we are going to be this is a public hearing, which means we will take comments from the public.
Correct. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have application 230147 for a preliminary plat for the Highlands at Clarkdale. Before we get too far into this, I wanted to talk a little bit about what exactly a plat is. So what a plat is a map that defines the boundaries of a project and the lots and the street locations and so forth within that boundary. So what you will see tonight is a revised plat from the previous iteration that was submitted for this project in February. And this is the preliminary plat. As you can see, there are 48 single-family residential lots because of the density transfer allowed for the wash on the north side and the eastish side, the slant in the triangle. The lots range in size from about 9,500 square feet to the largest one, which is at the bend there right by the roundabout, is about 13,000 square feet. This site is zoned R1, single-family residential that requires a minimum 10,000 square foot lot size. Like I said, the density transfer allows for that size to be dropped down to 8,690 square feet. But that's like I said earlier, the smallest lot here is about 9,500 square feet. The request for this is the R1 zoned portion only. So we're talking only about the residential. The kind of turquoisey color that you see at the front that is zoned commercial is not a part of this project. So again, just real quickly, these are the R1 development standards. So all of the homes that are constructed on these lots will have to meet these standards. They can't exceed 35 feet in height. They're limited in the amount of lot coverage, the minimum and frontage and average lot width are set in code, as well as are the setbacks. So how does the R1 zoning apply to this? Again, this time we're looking at 48 single family homes. These streets will be built to MAG standards and dedicated to the town for perpetual maintenance. So what does the MAG standard mean? That means a vertical curb, 2-inch gutter, and a 4-foot sidewalk on one side of the street. And that sidewalk will be constructed directly behind the curb. The developer is still responsible for the development of water, sewer, utility infrastructure, streets. Again, like I said, they'll be doing the streets and dedicating those to the town. The utility infrastructure will also be dedicated to the town once it's been inspected and accepted by the public works staff. Design review doesn't apply to single family residential, so there's no design review for this project. So the general plan designation for this site is mixed unit, which means, or mixed use, excuse me, which allows for a broad mix of uses, given the existing residential uses to the north and to the south of this. The mixed residential use here with the single family and the future development at the front would be appropriate in this situation and is in conformance with the general plan. And again, just talking about this is what the general plan talks about, and with respect to what is expected to be seen in a mixed use land use designation. And again, this project meets this definition. So I also wanted to take a minute to talk about some development impact fees and development agreements. Typically, a municipality can enter into a development agreement with a developer and require certain things to be done. For instance, a new wastewater treatment plant or a new well or a new park or something like that. But in about 2011, the state legislature changed those rules. And so now in order for us to be able to impose what we call development impact fees, we have to have what's called an infrastructure improvement plan that the council has approved that that sets out all of the future improvements required for the town based on certain growth standards, so that we can attach a definite size or use or proportion of that project to the specific subdivision or other project that's being proposed. We don't have that plan. We've got one underway. The master plan for water and wastewater is a big chunk of that plan. And as soon as we have that approved, then we can go back to doing those. Can we go to the next slide? So these are the regulations. These are the changes that were made. Again, we can only do it based on infrastructure improvement plans. We don't have one, so we can't mandate a development agreement. We can't charge more than the proportionate share. Even when we do get one, then the project will generate. So if the development impact fees, if another developer builds a new well, the developer in this instance would only be responsible for contributing what his 48 lots would consume of that well site. And we can't charge new people more. Everybody gets charged the same. They have to provide the same level of service. We have to provide the same level of service to them with respect to like police and fire, code enforcement, those sorts of things. So again, this is just in print what I just reiterated from the state statute. Again, because we don't have one, we can't impose any sort of development impact fees, and we can't really enter into a development agreement because the changes to the statute don't allow for it. So there's two types of decisions that influence things like plats and rezonings. We have legislative and we have administrative. Typically, legislative decisions are ones that are making changes to policies and procedures, where an administrative decision or approval is simply implementing previous legislative decisions that adopt codes, that adopt zoning ordinances, that adopt development standards and those sorts of things in this instance. So in this instance, the council is being asked to make an administrative decision to approve this preliminary plat that would implement the existing zoning, and therefore, if the project complies with the requirements of the existing zoning code, the town council has to approve it. Let's go to the next one. So again, back to the IIP, we can't require improvements beyond the minimum set forth in code. We don't have the IIP yet, so we can't really charge those. We can't require a development agreement because we don't have the IIP. We have, however, talked to the developer and have agreed to the frontage improvements along Clarkdale Parkway and Cement Plant Road. These are based on the adopted trails, Parks and Recreation Trails Master Plan. So these call for on Clarkdale Parkway, a 6-foot sidewalk. It's set 4 foot back from the curb so that people are not walking right next to the street. There's a 5-foot bike lane, and then the actual edge of pavement to the middle of the road. So when we talk about half streets, the developer is obligated to build what's on his half of the main street. And then for Cement Plant Road, we have an 8-foot sidewalk instead of a 6-foot sidewalk, then the bike lane, and then the travel lane. We also have a 2-foot shoulder. This one was a tighter squeeze just because of the slope of the property along Cement Plant Road. So the preliminary plat approval process takes place in 4 steps. The pre-application conference, we've already had several conferences and meetings with the developer working out what it is exactly that he's proposing to do and whether it meets standards or not. Stage 2 is the preliminary plat, and that's the stage we're at right now. Stage 3 is technical review, so that's when all of the engineering plans are complete. They go through a review process. We go through site plan review. And then the final stage is approval of the final plat and recording of the plat. So I'm not going to read all of these, but these are the requirements for preliminary plat. We have gone through every single one of them and verified that they are in fact in compliance with what's required here. Title work, letters of intent, recordation information for adjacent subdivisions. We can go to the next one. Again, just basic things like scales, vicinity maps. We can go to the next one. Locations of easements, streets, flood, all of the flood information is included in the flood control report, which we have a preliminary copy of that has been submitted. We have also includes typical lots so that everybody knows what the average lot is going to look like. Go ahead. Sanitary sewer report. We have a letter of serviceability instead because they will be connecting to the town sewer system. Floodplain boundaries, engineers' estimates for storm runoff. Again, all flood control things. Cut and fill, which is, you know, where they're going to bulldoze and smooth things out. Contours on the plat. So these are all just really the minutia that we get into when we review these sorts of things. Go ahead. And again, the flood control report, it's an important component of this because that talks about the water and where it washes and making sure that we're not discharging water onto adjacent properties where it wasn't discharged before. So the developer held a neighborhood meeting in August. About 50-ish people attended that. We had some discussion on certain things that had been changed, questions that the public had about what other things would be included. In October, we had a public hearing before the Planning Commission. We had one member of the public comment, and the Planning Commission found that the preliminary plat does meet all the standards set forth in code and that it recommended approval by town council. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has. I know the developer's here. If you have questions of him, the engineer's here. If you have questions of her.
Excuse me. Do you want to open it up for the public to speak, or do you wish to make comments or questions beforehand?
I'd like to hear the public's comments.
Okay.
before I make comments.
We are in open, this is a public hearing. So I invite anybody who wishes to make a comment to come up to the microphone. Please state your name and if you're a Clarkdale resident, and you have 5 minutes to speak. So just raise your hand or just stand up and I'll notice you. So this is your time to speak. Yes, come on up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Good to see all of you. Mr. Lash. Ruth, thank you for the report. Where is Ruth? Ah, okay. Ruth, thank you for the report and the explanation. Just a couple of comments and a question, I think perhaps for the council and also to Ruth. It does seem imperative that the town does come up with an infrastructure improvement plan, because it does seem as if we've left ourselves at a disadvantage in terms of being able to navigate and negotiate around development projects. So just speaking as a citizen, I am a resident of Clarkdale. I live on 3rd South. My name is Jackie Salid. And it does seem not good that we've left ourselves in that position. And I'm hoping that the council will move expeditiously to change that. I would also say, of course, even though I guess under the circumstances, Ruth, as you explained it, the town can't mandate certain contributions to infrastructure improvement. But I would hope that in the interest of goodwill for the town, Mr. Lash, that you would be generous in your giving both to the school and to other infrastructure projects on a voluntary basis. And then finally, I would just ask of the council and of Ruth as one of the resident experts here, whether you do feel comfortable that the infrastructure demands that the new project will make on the town, that we do have sufficient infrastructure capacity to carry that and to be able to fully integrate that into the community in a way that doesn't disadvantage, doesn't harm, doesn't cause distress, and overburden other parts of the town. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And if you just stay right there, I think Town Manager Guthrie would like to talk about the IIP and answer your question also about the capacity of the town to be able to handle this on our infrastructure. So.
Okay. First of all, the reason I believe that, and I wasn't here, but I think historically the reason why the IIP wasn't done is really twofold. Number one, all told, we'll probably have $400,000 into this plan. We are in phase one. We're doing the water and wastewater aspect, but there's also a roads aspect, public safety, etc. So it's a very expensive thing to do. So I think historically the town has not chosen to do it because it's a lot of money and we hadn't historically had the money to do that plan. The second reason that we hadn't done it, from my understanding, is even in this most recent fee study that we had done, generally they recommend for a small town to rely upon development agreements because we actually normally do much, much, much better on development agreements than we would do on impact fees. However, in order to realize the benefits, you have to be willing to change zoning. And that's what triggers our ability to negotiate a development agreement with a developer. So what we experienced back in February is an unwillingness to work with the developer to change the zoning. So that took our ability to require or to ask for a development agreement from the developer off the table. So we are well underway on our IIP. The wastewater and water master plan, we've received a rough draft. We have already submitted our comments back. We're waiting for the final, but there are other elements that have to be done. And you all know, I think we're $250,000 in to our water and wastewater master plan. So we are pursuing that. It takes a lot of time to get that done, but our ability to negotiate with the developer, and as you know, we had close to $3 million negotiated, all told, with everything included, that the town was going to receive if we had been able to negotiate a zoning change. And if many of you were here, community did not want to do that. So therefore, we are now at a straight zoning situation where we can't ask for anything in extra. Obviously, we're informally asking. We are in communication with Mr. Lash about potential improvements that he may be willing to help, but we certainly can't compel that whatsoever. So, and then your second question, are we good on number one? Okay, the second question was, do we have the capability of servicing them? Right now, our police department is fully staffed. Everybody please knock on wood. Extremely difficult to hire police in this era, but we are fully staffed at this moment. That level of service, we already are kind of at the peak of staffing. There are times when we have one officer on duty. We don't like that. So we're working to address that situation. On the water and wastewater aspect, you were at the public meeting where we had all of the charts showing And that was a public meeting where you could walk around and ask a lot of questions about our capabilities. But we have analysis that shows what our build out time and threshold for the wastewater treatment plan is. This project will keep us well under that. However, we already are pursuing grants. DK is working on finding grants to start the design process for the wastewater treatment plant, but that's really irrelevant to this project. But we have well capable of meeting the needs of this project as we are with our water. And that also was presented during that public meeting. So we have issued letters that we are able to service this development.
Can I respond?
You can make a statement, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, all the stuff you're saying about the infrastructure improvement work that's been done, I think has been wonderful. So I certainly didn't mean to suggest in my comments that it wasn't. I think it is. I would just add, though, that relative to the issue of the rejection of the PAD, what the town objected to, if I may speak for the citizens, since I was part of that, what the town objected to was the level of density that the PAD 10 would have created. That really was the core issue of the rejection. After the PAD 10 was rejected by a clear statement by many, many residents of the town, there was still an open issue as to whether the council and the developer might want to come back with a lower level pad, with a lower level density, which would have allowed the town to extract certain concessions from the developer. But that did not happen. Not because, in my opinion, the town would not have been responsive to that, but it was never moved to another level of conversation. Was there a density level that could have been governed by a PAD that would have responded to the town residents' concern about the density issues that also would have allowed the town to impose certain requirements on Mr. Lash? That didn't happen. So be it. We are where we are now. But I just wanted to make that statement, Mayor, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that, because I don't think it is appropriate to blame the town for having put us in a situation where we had insufficient leverage on Mr. Lash. This was all part of a public vetting process, and maybe there are lessons learned from this, and that would be great.
Please be assured, Jackie, that there is no blame for anything on this,
Good,
okay? There is
because
no
there
blame.
shouldn't be.
It was a very clear message that came from the community.
Yeah, and just to clarify my statement, since I'm the one that was speaking, I want to speak for myself that absolutely, I was not placing a blame. I was simply stating the facts of what happened. And in the end, just we have to remember, this is a business proposition for the developer. And I think he heard the community loud and clear that they wanted a straight zoning project, and that's what he brought back to us. And I was just explaining why we cannot ask for any incentives along with that. There's no blame. That's what the community wants. That's what we're going to act upon. And that was the message we got loud and clear, is they wanted it to be a straight zoning project. So, I mean, I think John was here and heard that message. So again, no blame, just simple facts of what transpired and why we can't do anything at this point above and beyond the basics.
I
Thank
guess
you.
I'd like to clarify
Yes, ma'am.
one thing, if I could. This is the first time this project is coming to council. This project has not been brought to council before this moment. So anything, I just want that to be clear. So this is our first
Right,
opportunity
right.
as a council to look at this project.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, Laura, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Anybody else wish to speak on this project as it's been presented? Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? Charity? Okay. We're all quiet. All of our questions have been answered. I'm giving everybody plenty of time. If you wish to speak, please come up and speak now. Come on up and state your name and if you're a Clarkdale resident, if you're a Clarkdale resident.
My
Thank
name
you.
is Cheryl Vandergraaf and I am a Clarkdale resident. I was here for the meeting where there was a lot of people, over 100 people came. I live very close to where this proposed development is going to be. I'm very concerned. It seems like it was just kind of pushed through. And from what you presented today with the preliminary plat, there's a lot of open-end questions as far as I'm concerned. All I saw, we get emails a lot from Susan Guthrie. So this was like, I don't have time, I work, so I can't attend all these meetings. But I don't think that this has been very open and above board to the town people. And it just seems like it's been pushed through. I don't mind so much, but I don't like the area where it's being proposed. We don't have that many areas that are just right by a waterway, Bitter Creek. A lot of animals are there. And then to have it so close to the school. And the other question I have, is this just phase one? Is there going to be more phases?
Is there going to be more phases?
Like, is there going to be more than these 48 homes?
That's
as
all
time
that's
goes
allowed
on?
in this, the land. That's what it's zoned for. So
Okay.
yes.
And the other thing is, I can't tell from that plat, is this still going all the way to Bitter Creek?
It doesn't, Bitter Creek, that's not Bitter Creek in that area.
Well,
That's,
whatever that creek
that's a
is,
wash.
whatever
I
that
don't know if it
wash,
has
there's
a
water in that
technical name.
wash.
Yeah, but it's not Bitter Creek. Bitter Creek is over in the industrial area.
Okay, so is this going to go encroach right up to that waterway?
I think I will have, Assistant Town Manager, Mayday speak to that.
Well, that and just, basically that.
Come on up, Ruth, and could you speak to that, please?
I sure can. So with respect to pushing this through, we have been working prior to the February meeting. Staff has been meeting with had been meeting with the developer for the better part of 18 months, discussing the finer points of that initial plan. We published in newspaper, we notified the neighborhood as required. In fact, we went beyond the notification boundary that is statutorily required to make sure that everyone was aware of what was going on. We've posted the site as required by statute. We've put articles out on the Small Talk and on Facebook. The public hearing, the neighborhood meeting that was held in August also was notified. Everybody was published in the paper. Everybody within 300 feet, which is the statutory requirement, was notified by first-class mail. The property was posted. It has subsequently been reposted for this specific public hearing, and those letters all went out for a fourth time. So we have done everything we can to be transparent about these meetings going on. Furthermore, the plat, and not just the cover sheet, but all of the detail sheets showing drainage and grading, utility locations, street widths, all of that is all available on the town's website. You can enlarge it and you can read all the detail you want. It's readily available on the town's website for anybody to review. So we make sure that that is out there so people can see what it is exactly that we're talking about. If you want to know where the fire hydrants are located, that's on the utility plan. If you want to know where the water lines are, that's on the utility plan. If you want to know how much grading is going to be done and where dirt is coming from and where it's going to be pushed to, that's on the grading plan. So that information is out there. It's readily available for anyone that wants to find it on the website. With respect to a phase two, this is the all that's under consideration tonight, as I said, was the R1 zoning district. That land is the only thing under consideration tonight. The developer may come back and decide to do something with that front project or for that front lot. There's about 5 acres there, but that is a completely separate application. It's a completely different zoning district. So if and when that happens, that will be a separate application.
Right.
And
The other had to do with the wash and the protection
so
of the wash.
So there is portions of the wash along the north boundary. It kind of zigzags in and out of there. But there is a separation between the wash and go back to the plat if you would. So if you look at that angle, that kind of triangle end, there's portions of the wash that zigzag in and out, but because of the soil compaction rates that are necessary, they can't build right to the lip of the wash. It's set back so that the houses are not sliding into the wash. Some of the wash area is included in some of the lot area, but you can't build there anyhow. Again, with the soil compaction rates that are necessary to build a house, if that close to a wash, you would be in some trouble. You wouldn't be able to meet the requirements.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other comments you wish to make? Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the public on this? Okay. Yes, please come up and speak. State your name if you're a Clarkdale resident.
Hi, I'm Sierra Hutchinson. That's a really good microphone. I am a Clarkdale resident. I'm afraid that this is the first eyes I've had on this project, so I am going to speak kind of spontaneously. But the first thing I'm thinking of is that this lot is your first eyes on the town. So the design elements, the height elements, anything that we can have an impact on as a town is very important as people are turning through that roundabout and choosing whether to turn into Clarkdale or Jerome. The other thing I think about is that our C is up there on the hill, and anything that we see as we look out at the train and at our C, which represents the town, is going to be over the top of this community. So the more we talk about that as the first eyes of the community, the more important we can be in our intention there. And the other thing is that I believe that this area has been really important in our conversations about trail systems and about pedestrian commutes, especially as it relates to the school and the ravine right there in that interchange that we're talking about. And so that should be also part of the conversation about how this new community, which is gonna bring in a number of hopefully single families, which will possibly bloat the school and the need for additional resource officers, will also have that commuting back and forth, thinking about maybe the drop-off line at the school and things of that nature. So those are the thoughts that I'm initially having. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other comments? Nobody online wants to comment? Charity, everybody's clear? If there hear no other comments, I'd like to close the public hearing. Okay, and and we'll move on actually, and we'll take questions in the next one from council, which is the Highlands at Clarkdale. This is for us to consider, discuss, consider and act upon application number 230147, the Highlands at Clarkdale, and for the approval of a preliminary plat subdividing approximately 18.56 acres of a 23.84 acre parcel into 48 lots. Again, Assistant Town Manager Ruth Mayday.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Having held the requisite public hearing, we can now move to the action item, which allows the council to discuss amongst themselves, ask additional questions of staff or the developer or the developer's engineer, and make a decision. So I'm again happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Okay. It's been presented to us and I'll open up for council comments or discussion. Yes, Lisa.
Yeah, I have a comment. Even though, as Councilmember Jones said, this is the first time that this project has been presented to council. And that is the project, including the previous iteration of this project. This is the first time the council has deliberated on it. However, it is not the first time council has seen it, because I know that I have been, and many of my fellow council people have been at the public hearings, which were well advertised. We didn't have any special advantage or any special information the public did not get. We were at the planning and zoning meetings, not all of us, but some of us. So we are educated on this topic, even though that this is the first time it has come to council for consideration and approval. That's all I wanted to say.
Marnie?
Thank you. Change is hard, and knowing that our community is going to be developing and growing is hard. Thinking about the drive into town looking different is hard. Thinking about all the people that live and their view is going to change. None of this is easy, and I just don't think that legally we have many options. The developer has worked with town staff extensively, has listened to the community in many ways, and planning and zoning passed it unanimously. Legally, I don't think we have a leg to stand on. And so, there are parts of it that make me really sad. There are parts of it that are really, really exciting. This is growth for our community. This is more rooftops that might bring some other business and some things that all of us would really love to have here, to make Clarkdale even better. So, I think we're in a tough spot. I'm not sure that anybody is really excited entirely about this, but there's some really good things about it. And legally, I think we don't have a choice.
Mayor, I
Yes.
just want to let
Yes.
you know that I do have Stephen online if you do have legal questions.
Okay,
He
thank
is
you very
attending.
much. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have a question. It was presented to us tonight about the 48 units, 18.56 acres, and then there was mention of the 5-acre parcel
Correct.
that is a separate project. My question is, as grading takes place for the project we have been told about tonight, will those 5 acres also be graded at the same time, or would that be left alone naturally?
That wasn't included in the grading plans. That's my recollection, so that would be separate.
Okay, so that would just remain natural until such time as that project comes forward. All right.
And that's correct, is it not? Yeah,
Okay.
I can remember some things.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Laura?
I'm not sure what to say. I've been watching this closely. This is my neighborhood, and I've been discussing this a lot with my neighbors and our constituents across the board. Like Councilmember O'Neill said, I've attended a lot of the meetings and heard the public outcry and the desire for us to have a no zone change for this property. I still am I think it's going to be a loss, and I know we have to grow, and I know we have to change. The idea that there could be modern structures that do not reflect the character of this community at our gateway is a disappointment. And I hope that whoever actually decides to construct these, or whoever you hire to construct them, whether that's you or another developer, that you take into consideration the historic context of Clarkdale, I think before I moved here, Mountain Gate got approved. And I think there was a lot of hard work done in this community to make the first phase of Mountain Gate reflective of Clarkdale. And as it has aged, it has done that very well. It is homes with porches. It is homes that reflect the homes that are built here in the historic part of town. And I really hope as the development of this property comes to be, that those values can be incorporated into that vision. I know there's lots of conversation in the historic preservation world, whether actually next to historic homes, you try to mimic that, or do you build something that is completely separate? As a lover of mid-century modern homes, you know, I would love those, but not there. I really hope that we can reflect this community and that people, when they come down the hill on Clarkdale Parkway and can see the historic town site, that they still feel like they're coming into historic Clarkdale, that they haven't been transported to another place, or that they're not so disconcerted and they're not so disconnected. I think, you know, this is what, as they call the lingo, a by right build, right? This is the zoning right, and you have the right to develop that. And I appreciate the process that you've been through, because I know that has not always been easy. But I really do hope that you take the community's feedback, you take the concern from our council, and that you really consider the town and who we are. And I know you're here for the long run. I know you're not a fly-by-night developer. We hear that a lot. People have said that to me. He doesn't care. He's just going to get, and I'm like, that's not true. I know that's not true. You have a commitment to this community. And I just hope that commitment can carry through to thinking about what the gateway and what the entry to historic Clarkdale means to all of us. And I think whether we live in the historic part of town or we live in other parts of town, we all cherish what this is and what we have here. So I just ask you to take that into consideration as you move forward and into that decision-making process, and to continue to involve the community in that process as much as you can, even if you're not mandated to do that, because we know you're not. It's been made very clear. Thank you, Ruth. You know, that's been made very clear. So that's all I have. Let's see.
I was here, I was on the planning commission when Mountain Gate came to Clarkdale. And that was a very interesting time in the whole region. We saw just massive building happening, indiscriminate kind of building, somewhat not very thought out. It was a very vigorous discussion, in part, there was a collaborative discussion because the community was actively engaged in it. And what came out of it was, I think, a very decent project. It went belly up, and John Lash and company picked it up and made it what it is today. And I agree, as it is aged, it looks really good. The early parts and probably the middle parts. Not too sure about some of the new parts, but you know, you can't have it all, but it all fits. And it's maturing, and it's becoming a good solid part of our town. Zoning is always hard, and it's arbitrary in its inception. And we know that zoning in Clarkdale was not our zoning that we created, that was created years and years and years ago. And some of it is kind of like you kind of scratch your head today. Why did we do that? It was just the way it was at that time. So the only way to change it is through zoning changes. and hopefully general plans that give us guidance and stuff. And our general plan has given us guidance in all of this. The project is here by right. It's allowed to be here. As we had no opportunity to speak on the other project, in general for this town, I would like us to have housing that is much more able to be attained by those who want to live and work here. I'm not sure that this project does that. I have to be honest, because of its size, and it is, but it is what is allowed, and we accept that as it is. So I look to other parts of our community to maybe, as it builds out, to provide housing so that we can have our police officers and our employees in the town and our teachers and those who want to live and work here be able to afford to live here in a comfortable manner and not be stressed because it is just hard for them financially. So is this the perfect project here? No. But the community has given a very strong voice of what they wanted here, and no zoning change was to be in the works for that. I do agree with Councilmember Jones in terms of how it fits. We hope that whoever constructs it, whether it's going to be individual contractors or one contractor, that they get a sense of how it should fit and be so that when people come into Clarkdale and see the view, that they see all of it as being a town that this would be great to live, to play, and to work in. So it's allowed. I look forward to it going forward. And I think that's about all I need to say tonight. Thank you. With that, are there any other comments or questions to the developer? Would we like the developer to say anything? John, do you wish to come up and say anything? Okay, if you could, please.
So my name is John Lash. I'm the managing partner for the Plateau Partners 2 partnership. And Madam Mayor and council members, I appreciate all you've done to support the project and try to help us get there. Commissioner Jones, we will definitely take into consideration your comments. That there's no bigger fan of development than me. So when we drive all of our communities, everybody seems to think we are out for the money or want to throw something up and move on. But all of this stuff is going to outlive us. And so we want to, be respectful of the community we're in. And we also want to be proud of what we do. We started this project back in February, and I heard it loud and clear that we wanted to have housing for the police and the teachers and, the people that actually live in the community and, want to continue to stay in the community. And that's why we went down the process of trying to get the PUD approved. Somebody had mentioned one of the residents that, why didn't we try to do something of a lower density? The trouble with the PUD is it requires you do full floor plans, elevations, landscaping plans. And before you know it, you've got $250,000 or more invested in a plan. And that's just something we went forward and tried it, but we're not coming back and trying it for a second time. So I think, we did definitely hear what everybody said in the town, and that's why we changed course and just went with the by right development. So.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If I hear nothing from the council, do I hear a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion that the council approve application number 230147, the Highlands at Clarkdale, a preliminary plat subdivision approximately 18.56 acres of a 23.84 acre parcel into 48 residential lots on a vacant parcel of land generally located at the northwest corner of State Route 89A, Cement Plant Road, and Clarkdale Parkway.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember O'Neill and second by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve application number 230147, the Highlands at Clarkdale, a preliminary plat subdividing approximately 18.56 acres of a 23.84 acre parcel into 48 residential lots on a vacant parcel of land generally located at the northwest corner of State Route 89A, Cement Plant Road, and Clarkdale Parkway. Any clarification needed on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. Motion is passed. Thank you. Let's move on to item 8D, ratification of the grant application for the Arizona Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. And that's the EECBG program, and we have Grants Manager DK Green that will speak to this topic.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Council, and residents. So yeah, this is an exciting grant that I'm happy to bring forward. Because of the timing of it, I'm bringing it forward for ratification. The deadline fell in between council meetings, hence the reason we're talking about it now. But as you know, we get together every couple of weeks, all the department heads, and we discuss potential grant opportunities in addition to the grants that we're currently working on, opportunities that the town might need, and different funds that might be available out there. And this is a state of Arizona energy efficiency grant. And when we discuss potential projects as a team, we look at the strategic plan as a kind of our guiding compass of what sort of things do we need right now would most benefit the community. And when we were looking at this energy efficiency grant, we were given a number by the state. It was $200,000 was the max capacity that we could ask for. So we thought the best path would be to go with police vehicles, electric police vehicles. And, beyond the obvious saving of fossil fuels, greenhouse gas emissions being reduced, saving, stress on our watershed, on our airshed, things like that. There's also a cost savings of with the information I was given by the chief, and I'm not sure if Chief's still here, but thank you so much for all
He's
your
here.
and from both himself and Lieutenant Candelaria. But we were given the numbers of gallons of fuel that would be saved, dollars on that as well. And we found that with the vehicles that they were looking at, fully outfitted, and with grant speak, we use the term fair and open competition. We can't specifically ask for the make and model of a vehicle that we want to acquire, but we can ask for an SUV style or a truck style. So we went through the budget process and we looked at what vehicles would fit the criteria and the needs of our police department. And again, fully outfitted, we came to the amount of $196,000 was the amount of the grant application that we put through. So that's what I'm here for, is asking for that to be approved.
And any questions for DK on this grant? Go ahead.
No questions, just a comment. This is pretty exciting. I've been talking to the chief for probably a couple of years about EVs. There's a lot of other jurisdictions around the country that are using EVs in their fleet, not completely changed over to electric, but just a nice augmentation to what they already have. And there's a lot of advantages to having these vehicles, some of what you've already laid out, but also usually in an electric vehicle, there is no engine compartment. So that's storage for more equipment that can be used. A lot of them are already outfitted with cameras and that. So it's a pretty exciting. I hope we get the grant, and then I look
Hope so.
forward to seeing the implementation. So thank you for this.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great example too for the community. I mean, we have electric charging stations near the police station already here at our town hall complex, and it would be great to be able to utilize those for our own vehicles.
Great. Yes, Marty.
On a similar note, I'm excited that we're doing this. I think it's something that we talked about when we were first elected, and it's possibly finally coming true, which is so cool. But also just to commend all the work that you're doing on exploring all of these grant opportunities and really figuring out how to make them work for the town of Clarkdale to maximize them for us. So thank you.
Well, thank you. But as I've said before, and probably not enough, it is certainly a team effort with what we do and the projects that we look to fund. And I couldn't do it without the help of everyone that we work with. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Lisa.
Yeah, I would like to commend you on the fact that this is a no match grant. This is free money. I think that is absolutely terrific. So thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And anybody else wish to comment?
I'm excited to see a police vehicle charging out there.
Madam Mayor, will you take a motion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, DK, for again for working with staff and staff working with police department working with you to get this grant in, and it is exciting to see. We have wanted to see this happen, and it's beginning to happen.
We hope
So
so.
yeah,
And if we don't get this, I'm gonna keep trying.
right. And I agree with Councilmember O'Neill. I'm glad we don't have to do a match on this one too. So with that, I will take a motion.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I recommend that we approve the ratification of grant application for the Arizona Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, EECBG program for $196,000 for 2 fully outfitted police department electric vehicles, and authorize the town manager to sign all documents related to this grant if awarded.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve the ratification of the grant application to the Arizona Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program for $196,000 as presented by Vice Mayor Hunsetter. So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
DK.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to items 8E, which is the Yavapai Apache Land Acknowledgement Statement. This is discussion, consider and act upon adopting a land acknowledgement statement to be included on future council agendas and for use in official town communications as needed. And Town Manager Susan Guthrie will present this topic.
Thank you, Mayor. Recently, the chairwoman for the Yavapai Apache Nation reached out to me and asked for a copy of our land acknowledgement statement. Because of that request, I know that the mayor uses one on her signature block, so I was familiar with that, but it led to a conversation about the fact that we had never really adopted that as a council or as a town. And so I didn't feel comfortable providing her with the statement the mayor uses on behalf of the town. So we asked Councilmember Laura Jones and the mayor to work together to draft language that they were comfortable with to bring to you for consideration. So you find that on your agenda, and I'll read it to you. The proposed language says, long before Clarkdale became a town, these lands were home to the Yavapai and Apache peoples. Today, the Yavapai Apache Nation remains an integral part of the town of Clarkdale. We, the town of Clarkdale, acknowledge and honor that we live on the traditional lands of the Yavapai and Apache people. So I want to put that out there on behalf of Councilmember Jones and Mayor Prudhomme Bauer, and then allow for you all to discuss your thoughts on that matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comments? Once, yes,
I'm excited that we're doing this. I think it's time.
yes, Lisa.
Even though I think that this is a true statement, I would like us to think about the long-term implications. We all really have worked hard, and it shows in our relationship with the nation, and they have worked hard in their relationship with us. My concern is we're not going to be here forever, and neither is the current chairwoman. I am concerned. Let me back up and say thank you for working on this. It's a wonderful statement, but I'm concerned that taking the position as a town may be opening future town councils and administrations to a liability that we don't see just yet. So I'd like us to think about this for a while.
Okay. Can you articulate what you might think that liability be?
Yes, I'll tell you what came to mind is at the beginning of the equal rights movement, there was Martin Luther King Jr., who peacefully protested, who worked within the system and tried really hard to get things done, followed by Malcolm X, by any means necessary. And I wonder if the Yavapai Apache Nation might not have a Malcolm X in the future saying, we want our land back, or we want to get paid for the land, or because you acknowledge that you are on our land legally, you acknowledge that because you take this position as a town, then we want this consideration. We want to have input on the Highlands project because it impacts our land. Unforeseen circumstances is what I'm thinking of. And I was a big admirer of Malcolm X as well, so nothing, personal there.
Is
Yes.
Stephen still online? No. Okay.
I don't know if he is or not.
I believe he left. Just for information for the council, this did come up prior to the meeting, and I did send Stephen a message asking him to do some research on any exposure that adopting a statement such as this might have. I think his very preliminary answer is he feels that the lands that we own were all gained under legal processes, but it wasn't a definitive answer. And I think probably if we are going to answer that specific question, that probably is going to take some additional time to do research to fully vet if that has ever come up before, or if the exposure potential is there or not. But at this point, I don't feel like either myself nor Stephen could really thoroughly answer that and reassure council that that's not a possibility. So it's probably the most definitive I can be on that. Sorry.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have some comments. First of all, I'd like to recognize that it's Native American Heritage Month, so that's very appropriate that we're having these discussions this month. And our number one strategic goal, as mentioned in this staff report, is to preserve and celebrate Cogdale's unique and complex history. And certainly the nation is part of that complex history. So I think that nothing could be more fitting than a symbolic gesture, but I don't want it to be perceived as superficial or disingenuous, but motivated by genuine respect and support for our Native neighbors. Land statements have been around. They're very, very heavily used in Canada and Australia, and they've made their way to the United States and are becoming more and more prevalent here. But there definitely are two sides to the perspective. Even some Native peoples coming out and being offended by them as being too little, too late. But my hope is that if we do something like this, that it's going to open people's minds and hearts and stimulate conversations to take place, seeking to understand our history and inspire further actions of support. But as part of this, as I was doing my research on that, it prompted me to say that furthermore, we should start our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States as a nation dedicated to liberty and justice for everyone. By saying the Pledge of Allegiance, we're signifying our commitment to ensuring that every citizen in this country is granted the freedoms guaranteed by our Constitution and is treated with fairness and equality, irrespective of their race or beliefs. And the pledge and supporting democracy have more importance now with the volatile political and social climate we face today. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Okay. Any other comments?
I helped craft it. So, I acknowledge greatly that this is where we live and this is who lived here before us. And Lisa, you're right that there could be unforeseen circumstances, but there could be unforeseen circumstances for lots of things that we do. And I came to the Verde Valley in 1992 to work for the Yavapai Apache community. It wasn't called the Yavapai Apache Nation. And as I've said on more than one occasion, it has been a great pleasure to sit here and to work in partnership with the nation and to acknowledge the incredible role and history that they have here in our community. And I can tell you in 1992, that wasn't the case. There was a complete disconnect between the nation. I worked for the nation as a professional in 2012 and to 2010 to 2012. Even then, there was a greater disconnect than there is now. So I celebrate that change and that, that the chairwoman comes to meetings here and, the council is very excited and we are, I think, seen as complete partners to them. You're right, there could be unforeseen circumstances. But for me, it feels a respectful way to continue that relationship. And, I don't know, that's
fine. Marnie.
I think it's extremely meaningful that they asked us. This is not us just saying, hey, we want to do this. But they asked us what statement we used, and that means that it has value for them and that it's not simply performative.
In just sort of speaking to the unintended consequences, we've made great strides in that relationship with the nation that is within the boundaries of Clarkdale. We already started down that path with the signing of the water settlement because they are actively engaged with us in how we go forward with our water system, our wastewater system, and the like. So that we've already moved into that area of closer collaboration. This, to me, is just sort of putting it forward and bringing it all together. And it was an ask of our chairwoman, Tanya Lewis, who was born and raised here. She doesn't live here now, but she might come back here someday. So I hope so. And I hope to see the Yavapai Apache Nation people within our community be more actively involved in our town and to comment on development that might come forward and stuff. That would be wonderful to see. I don't have any real concern about all of that. They're just a part of our community. So I feel very comfortable with this acknowledgement. And to Vice Mayor Hunsetter's point, I had already indicated to Susan that that we would start our meetings from now on with the Pledge of Allegiance as well as having the land acknowledgement. That's just something that we just hadn't done. There was no reason it hadn't been done in Clarkdale. We're just going to start doing that. So I just wanted to speak to that too. We all have unintended consequences every time we make a decision here. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to actually, how the houses will be out in Highlands, Clarkdale, or how the development is going to happen on 89A. We don't know what those buildings are actually going to look like. Are we going to like it? We might envision it. There's all sorts of unintended consequences to every action we take. So I'm comfortable in faith in this statement that it will be just fine.
Would it be too much to ask to delay until we do get a definitive opinion from our council?
I'm not sure we're going to get a definitive opinion. That is my concern. I think because there's probably not, that's my opinion. I might be wrong. We've heard preliminary that it shouldn't be a problem for us to adopt this. We can ask our attorney to do some more exploration. Are we going to feel comfortable if he comes back and says, I can't give you a definitive answer? To me, I'm fine with where we are today, but that's up for all of us to determine. Comment.
Susan, can you repeat what Stephen said?
So this conversation happened this morning in the middle of the whole Selma Mangini heart. So I just want to be fair that he had no time to do any research at all on this topic before this meeting. His very preliminary, I mean, it kind of, I think, made him pause like, oh, and so he said, our lands were all gained through, legal, lawful processes, but we have to acknowledge that we're now saying these are your historic lands. And so there was no answer beyond, we, of course, gained our property legally. But, I don't feel like that was an answer at all, other than just him brainstorming,
Gotcha.
of course, we all got our lands legally. So there was no research done whatsoever, or even really any amount of time dedicated to thinking through the implications,
Okay.
just because we were working on something else today. So if you want us to go back and give him some time to just, put that concern to rest, we can absolutely ask him to do that.
Is there agreement to possibly do that? I could live with getting a more thorough or thoughtful response from our town attorney. I'm not sure it's going to be definitive, but we can get a more thoughtful response. Would that be something that we would like?
I think it's reasonable to say that we can table this.
Okay.
I also was going to mention, I really like the way that Camp Verde actually put, it wasn't necessarily a statement, but it was a couple of paragraphs on their website and then redirecting people to the website for the nation as well. So, but
Okay.
it was probably longer than a land statement, but it was talking about how integral they are to the community and how important. And it did talk about land swap, but it needs to be updated with the latest new information on land swap. So, but I thought that, that's something that's probably been longstanding that we could probably adopt as well.
And we have done that somewhat in our opening remarks in our strategic plan. If you go back and look at our strategic plan, we have started, we haven't broadened our discussion of the town of Clarkdale. So we've already started there. But if you want, why don't we ask our town attorney to give us a more thought out response and table this for discussion at another council meeting?
Yes.
Is
I
that,
can
is that
support that.
agreed? Okay.
Do we need a formal motion to
Yeah.
table?
I think we do.
Might as well, yeah.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I move that we table this item, what is it? 8E until a further meeting when we can have more counsel from our attorney.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to table this item on the Yavapai Land Acknowledgement Statement to a further time following advice and opinion or sub-comments from our written comments from our town attorney. Okay. With that, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you very much for the discussion. I think it was very fruitful. And yeah, I've been asked to do a 5-minute recess if we could. For all of us, we've been in a meeting since 5, so just give us a couple minutes, Charity, and we'll be back.
$589.40. Roughly $200,000 over what we initially proposed for the project. So should we get awarded the $500,000 from Arizona State Parks Land and Water Conservation Fund, then additional funds will not be needed from the town, which is very exciting for us. And we worked really hard to figure out how we can do that. With that said, if we are not awarded that, then we're proposing that we use the CIP funds from the CIP project GO8 to cover the gap in funding if need be. We really don't expect that's going to happen, but we want to be safe than sorry. We want to keep moving forward. Okay. That being said, now here comes the long part. So we have a contract for you and a recommendation. The recommendation is that council approve the contract with Fan Contracting in the amount of $2,726,589.40 and authorize staff to apply and accept additional land and water conservation grant funds up to $500,000. And if needed, to reallocate funds from the CIP project G08 to CI project P01 in the amount of $225,000, and to authorize the town manager to sign all necessary documents, including change orders up to 10%. And lastly, allow the town manager to make ministerial changes to the agreement if needed. Okay, thank you, Joni. Questions? Yes.
I just want to congratulate you and your whole team. I was just thinking about the first time when I was in Parks and Rec, we presented this to council, and it wasn't even in this room because you were, but we were over in the police station because this room was under construction. I mean, this was a long time ago, and not just that, like, this is such a complex project, so much more complex than any of us, I think, ever could have imagined. And I am so grateful that you guys have taken your time. You have ensured that this is what the community needs. We didn't rush through anything. And it is going to be an incredible park for our community and a draw to the community. So thank you for all of your hard work. And this is so, so exciting to finally be awarding the contract.
Thank you. We're really, really excited for all of the pieces that are coming together. And you're exactly right. The complexity of the project has been a lot of our holdup over the years, but particularly in the last 6 to 8 months. And it's really feels good to be there, to be ready to get it done. Thank you. Lisa.
So am I to understand that if we don't go ahead with this, that we're going to lose out on 40% discount for the playground equipment? Not to be, I mean, it's not like we can sit on it. Deal is off the table.
Correct. I mean, we maybe have a couple of weeks. We've got until December 2nd. And since you guys didn't have another meeting during that time, we really wanted to get it through. We think we have a very good, solid contract. We work with Stephen to get all the pieces in place, and feel very confident that it's a good way forward for us. But yes, 40%. About $130,000 that yes.
By doing this now. Yes. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll make
Yeah.
a comment. Boy, like Councilmember Babbitt Pierce said, I can remember when that first meeting where you guys presented to the council and it's like, it was a mind-blowing design at that time. And then just to see it evolve. And, you know, again, kudos to Felicia and Shao and Joni for seeing this through all of these many, I wouldn't say months, it's been years of dealing
has
with
been
this. And then going to the neighborhood meeting and all the people that came out and were looking at the design and asking questions. And there were some things, some suggestions that the neighbors had. And I see that those have been incorporated and some of them were useful in helping to reduce the budget in that case. And then looking at your capital plan here, your fundraising campaign. This is great. There's some exciting things in here. And I hope that, you know, we can get some community businesses to sign up and do some of these things. It would just really add, it's just such a unique park. And for all of those travelers going to the train, coming into Clarkdale, being able to see that, talk about your entrance to town, certainly from the east side, that's going to be quite the gem. So thank you for that. And thank you for all your work in getting us to where we are today.
Thank you. And I do need to say, you know, I was just trying to get through this, so, because I know it's a late night, but this park is a very big pride and joy for us, or will be, in the work for the STEAM related elements of this park, and creating a destination for the community, for people all around to come, classrooms. We've been meeting with science teachers to, you know, talk about signage and how we can best attract and what we can build and put in there that will create that, you know, yes, that wow factor. Thank you. So that's the most exciting part to us. And we've spent a lot of time on that as well.
Well, and I vision, you know, going to the train with your family, you know, kids maybe get into that, but they'll see this park and they'll say, Mom, Dad, stop the car. I want to do this.
Yeah. It's great.
Well, I'm looking at page 29, line 36. No, I'm totally kidding you, Joni. I'm kidding.
I think she got you.
I'm totally kidding. If you've not looked through this, this is probably one of the most dense documents I've ever read in my life. I tried to, it's a good read. Yeah. No, yeah, I can just echo what everybody's saying. I mean, this is just spectacular and I'm so looking forward to being part of it. I'm excited that the art part has really gotten in there and that we've got a great community of people that have come together to help, you know, move that mission forward. And that will include the artists of our community. And so it really, you guys have done such an incredible job reaching out to so many different people and pulling them all together. So it's very exciting. That's all. Yeah, no. I have no idea what's on page 29, line 37.
It's something cool, I'm sure.
It's very cool.
Yeah, this is absolutely great. Your team has done an incredible job. I understand that Shell scrubbed the proposal several times and she made sure that there was no duplication of dollars and negotiated to get it right. And Shell, thank you. You found your new talent. Is doing that. This is a great project for all the reasons everybody said. As I'm looking at the fundraising campaign, I just want to tell you, I will be your first donor to the campaign at a level of $5,000 from my family's trust.
Thank you. If I could just also recognize, because I noticed one of our Parks and Rec Commission members is here.
Yes.
Our Parks and Rec Commission has been integral
Yes.
in getting us through all of the small pieces and bringing to you the big pieces. So I want to just recognize Ben.
Ben, yeah,
Right.
thank you. Yeah, please extend our thank you to the commission for being there through all of this and helping to guide it and give their input as well as the community. I know they did a lot of work. And Felicia, this is sort of like your swan song to us as you enter into the new next phase of your world as a council member-elect in Cottonwood. So, but I know your heart is still here. There you go. So with that, I will take a
Nerd.
motion.
It is with great pleasure that I move that we approve the contract with Fan Contracting in the amount of $2,726. I'm sorry, $589.40, and authorize staff to apply and accept additional land and water conservation grant funds up to $500,000, and if needed, to reallocate funds from CIP Project G08 to CIP Project P01 in the amount of $225,000, and to authorize the town manager to sign all necessary documents, including change orders up to 10%, and to make ministerial changes to the agreement if needed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve the contract with Fan Contracting for the amount as presented in the motion with all the other items. And before we vote on that, I just was reminded, this is not so hard for us to do, to find the money. If we could find $1 million to build a road when we were over budget that much, we can find these dollars for this park. So with that, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, gratefully, it has passed.
Thank you.
Felicia's swearing in is Tuesday at 5:30, so
I'll be there with bells on. And let's move on to item 9, future agenda items. Are there any other than we have the one tabled item coming back? And I think with everything unless there's something that comes up, this will be our last meeting for November, and we'll be back in session in December. With that, I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and I would take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and second by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to adjourn the meeting at 8:24 p.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you all for a terrific evening.